This is my pedal board that I use live as well as in the studio, and I'm excited to walk through how exactly I use these pedals to get the tones I'm going for, and hopefully give you some ideas and inspiration for your rig too. Lately, I've been trying a lot of new things, which has been really fun and really refreshing. New approaches with different pedals like these Meris LVX and MercuryX, which replaced my Strymons. Different guitars like this Strat that I got earlier this year, which we may demo a little bit in this video. Different amp captures on the ToneX pedals that I'm using, and a lot more that we'll unpack as we go. So for the actual board, this is a mono pedal board rail, the medium size. I've been using this for a couple of years and I love it. It's been really rock solid, and personally I just really like this size as well. Underneath the board is a little bit more messy, but everything is powered by a mono large power supply as well as a Strymon Oh-Hi. I've also got this Pinstripe pedals buffer right here, which I'll touch on a little bit more here in a second. As far as cables go, I'm pretty sure everything on the board now is using the EBS flat cables. I've kind of slowly replaced all of my patch cables with them over the years. They hardly break. They're also just really thin and a really good size for getting them in some of those difficult places. So highly recommend great patch cables. And then for my amps, I'm running into this little mini ToneX board that I built. I like using the big box ToneX pedals. Some of you guys have asked if I'm ever gonna switch to the ToneX ones. I may at some point, but I like having the screen and all the controls here. It's pretty handy. So I've got two of my ToneX pedals here going out into this Daiso EXO, which I will also touch on here in a bit. And then from there, I just go out into my DAW, and I don't usually run any processing or plugins or anything like that. And as far as guitars go, today I'm mostly going to be using this Citizen C2 guitar. I've had this for a little bit over a year, and it's so solid. It's my number one. Really enjoy it. For the pickups, I have a Fralin Modern PAF here in the bridge, and a Lambertone Crema in the neck. But it's great. Jeff is a great builder over at Citizen Guitars. Highly recommend. And this is the Strat that I mentioned a little bit ago. As a telly guy, it's been a lot of fun actually to just challenge myself with something a little bit different, something new. And this one is pretty interesting as well because it's got a chambered body. So it's super light, but it plays great. Love the way that it sounds. And the model is one of the Fender Player 2 Strats, the Mexican ones. And I did put some Fender Fat 50 pickups in here, which sound great. I will say the stock pickups were also really solid in this guitar. So diving into the signal chain, the first thing that I go into out of my guitar is the Pinstripe Pedals multi-buffer. I showed you this a second ago underneath the board, but this is just a great buffer when you're running a lot of pedals and a lot of cabling. It's really important to have either buffered pedals or some type of buffer to shoot more of a strong signal through your signal chain. It's also got two outputs, which is pretty cool. If I remember correctly, I think output 1 is more of the standard output, and then output 2 has a Jensen transformer in it, which was kind of made famous by their Daiso Plus pedal. So the way that I have mine set up is output 1 just goes actually straight out into my tuner, and then output 2 is where I'm sending the rest of my guitar signal through. From there, we go into my compressor, which is the Barber Electronics Tone Press. I've had this for a long time now, and I love it. It's a parallel compressor. I really like the way that it grabs your notes. It just feels really musical. One of the things I've been experimenting with lately has just been running a lot more compression. So I've got things turned up pretty high on here, but I'll go ahead and turn this off. I'll just play clean so you can hear guitar straight into the ToneX pedals with nothing else on, and then I'll turn on the tone press so you can hear what that sounds like. So you can hear it's definitely quite a bit of compression, but I like what it does for my tone. I like the sustain that I get from it. And especially with this compressor too, the way that it kind of smooths out some of those transients just sounds really great. So big fan of this compressor. Out of this, I go into the Electro Harmonix Pitch Fork, which has been a staple on the board for a long time. I've had this for a handful of years now. Super versatile octave pedal. It just does a ton. You can do regular octave stuff. It's got this really cool latch function on here as well, where you can do some of the whammy type sounds. It'll shoot your signal up or down to whatever interval you want. It's even got some detune stuff on here as well, which is pretty fun. So it really can do all kinds of stuff. So I'll just turn it on. I'll start messing with some settings so you can hear just what some of these different sounds sound like, and then I'll add some wet effects too so you can hear it in context. So out of the Pitch Fork, we go into this Sound of Justice RC Booster. This is a relatively recent addition to the board, but it's awesome. I love using this as kind of an always-on tone shaper type of thing. I was using the LVL in this spot for a little while, which was good, but I just didn't like that there wasn't any sort of tone control on there. So this does have a 2-band EQ, which is pretty great. The top left is a volume control and the top right is a drive control. So you could use this like an overdrive pedal if you want to, but it's super clean. There's a lot of clean headroom on tap, especially because it can run at 18 volts as well. So it's kind of the perfect always on tone shaper type of thing. It is nice too if I'm switching between guitars, like if I switch over to the Strat, which maybe I'll demo here in a second, I'm able to just really quickly gain it up a little bit if I need to, or maybe turn down some of the brightness. So I'll play this clean without it, and then I'll turn it on so you can hear what it sounds like. So out of the RC Booster, we go into this Twilight Pulse AudioWorks Constant, and this is kind of the real start to my drive section. And I'm actually gonna touch on this really quick because I've been trying kind of a new approach to my drive pedals. For my core drive tones, I'm using the Constant for more of the low gain stuff. I'm using the Benson Preamp for more medium gain tones, and I'm using this new Kilt 10 for more of the high gain fuzz sounds that I might need. I'm also running 2 boosts, which kind of act as bookends for my drive chain. So the boost in the Constant is before all of my drives, and this Tone Ranger Audio Germanium boost is after all of my drives. So I guess if I were to lay out the entire drive chain, I have the Constant EP boost first, then the Constant drive side, then the Benson Preamp, the Kilt, and then the Germanium boost at the end. I know there's a lot there, and I promise there's a purpose for everything. I'm gonna unpack that as we go. For now though, I just wanna focus on those core drives. So like I mentioned, the Constant, the drive side is kind of my low gain thing that I'm doing right now. I love this pedal, super, super cool. It's kind of Lightspeed-esque. It does the low gain stuff really well, but it also does high gain stuff super well. So for now, we'll just keep it on the low gain setting. We'll take a look at how this sounds. So out of the Constant, I'm going into the Benson Preamp next, and I love this drive pedal. It's probably one of my favorites of all time. I've had this on the board for a while, and I'm just using this for more medium gain stuff. It just sits really well in the mix. It can cut through, but it's not too harsh. Still retains a lot of that bottom end, and it just sounds rich. It just sounds really nice. So out of the Benson, we go into the Kilt 10, which I just got yesterday. So I've hardly had any time to really dial it in, but it's one of those pedals that as soon as you turn it on, it just sounds great. So I've been super impressed so far. As far as how it compares to the Kilt version 2, I think it just sounds huge. There's a lot more volume on tap. I think the gain sweep is a lot more usable as well. There's some really great low gain sounds you can get also, but I'm using it as a pretty high gain drive right now. And what's cool about this too is I can hook it up to the Morningstar if I want to, and I could use one of these buttons as a red remote if I just want to engage that extra gain stage in it. So here's how I have it dialed right now. Now for the boost that I mentioned earlier, I've got the right side of the Constant before all of my drives, and then I have this Germanium boost at the end of all of my drives. For the EP boost in the Constant that's running into everything, I found that it's really helpful to have a boost going into your drives because I find myself sometimes wanting just a little bit more gain and not necessarily a volume jump, just a little bit more gain on the drive pedal I'm using, and I want to retain that drive pedal's characteristics. So running a boost into your drive pedal does exactly that. Now the Tone Ranger Germanium boost is definitely more of kind of a classic boost that's at the end of everything, like I had mentioned. I love this boost. It just makes everything sound bigger. I feel like it adds just the right frequencies where it helps me poke through just a little bit more, but it doesn't get harsh or thin. So out of the Germanium boost, we go into my volume pedal, and this is a Lehle Mono Volume S, and this has been a great upgrade for me. I used the mini Dunlop volume pedal for a pretty long time, and it was fine, but my foot was just a little bit too big for it. It was never comfortable while doing swells, and it got really squeaky as well. So I've been really impressed with this one. It feels really durable. I really like the sweep quite a bit. And I like that it's small enough that it still is relatively compact so I can fit more pedals on the board. So That's the volume pedal. Going out of that volume pedal, I'm actually going into the Walrus Audio Julia. I was using a Juliana for a while, but recently I switched back to this. I don't really know what it is about the Julia that I just personally really like. I think I've learned that I do like running vibrato in mono as opposed to stereo, but even running this compared to running the Juliana in mono, I don't know why this one just sounds a little bit better to me. So I went ahead and threw this back on the board, and I mainly use this for vibrato. I'm using the LVX for all of my chorus stuff. That gets really wide and lush, so I'm able to keep this in mono and keep things sounding pretty good. So here's how I'm using the Julia. So out of the Julia, we go into the Strymon Brig, and this is the start of my stereo signal. This is also the start of where we begin to incorporate the Morningstar MC6 PRO MIDI controller. So things are starting to get a little bit wild here. I'll try not to talk too much so we can still kind of keep a good pacing in this video. But I really like this pedal a lot. I feel like it's got a really nice stereo feel to it. It's got some really nice warble, a nice dark delay sound. And I'm primarily using it to stack with the LVX. So the LVX, I'm using it for all my standard kind of go-to delay sounds. The Brig is just a nice extra kind of dual delay thing if I want a little bit of that dual delay sound, or if I just want to add a little bit more atmosphere to things, then I can bring this in. The way that it's connected to the Morningstar as well is it's receiving tap tempo. So as I move through my set list, tempo is being sent to the LVX and the Brig, so they're always gonna be in time together. Typically I'm running it as an 1/8 delay, but I can really easily just switch it to quarter as well, since I tend to be on dotted 1/8 for the most part with the LVX. But another pretty cool way that I have this connected with the Morningstar is I actually have it hooked up with this expression fader on the bottom left side of my board. This is made by Old Blood Noise Endeavors, and it's just an expression controller really, so you could connect it to anything that takes expression. I've just got that going into the Morningstar and then out of that into the Brig, and I'm using the expression fader to control the amount of mix on the Brig. So I actually have the Brig on all the time. Usually I just have that fader at 0 so you're not hearing anything from it, but if I ever want that dual delay, I can just fade that right in and it's gonna pair really nicely with the LVX. So I'll just play the Brig really quick so you can hear what it sounds like on its own, and then I'll pair that with the LVX so you can get an idea of how I might use it. So we're gonna change up camera angles really quick just so you can get a closer look at the Morningstar and just kind of see this a little bit more clearly, because this really is the brains of a lot of what's going on here. It talks to the Meris pedals, it talks to the Brig, sends tempo, and there's really a lot connected here. So like I mentioned a second ago with the Brig, we do have this expression fader on the bottom left that's hooked up here. It is controlling the mix level of the Brig, but I wanted to send it into the Morningstar as opposed to sending it straight into the Brig, because really I could connect this to the Meris pedals if I wanted to, or anything else if anything else decides to get connected here that does take expression. But as far as what's actually here on the face of the Morningstar, this is kind of my base template for each song that I do. You can hopefully see here in the middle, it's in the key of E. This is Love of God. This is a song that we did recently at our church. It is pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory. You can see here on the left side, we've got an up and a down toggle for the MercuryX. So as I go up, this is basically going to just engage more and more of these presets as I scroll up. And then I can just hit down on the MercuryX to go down from page to page really easily. So you probably noticed my workflow, just like my Strymon stuff, is just a simple 1, 2, 3, 1 being the least washy or the least dramatic, and 3 being the most intense. So like if we go down here to cloud 1, this is going to be a relatively gentle cloud setting, and as I go up to cloud 3, this is going to be more of maybe a swell setting, a little bit more intense. So I like to have things set up that way for the MercuryX. And moving into the middle row, I kind of have the same workflow for the LVX. Again, the whole point is for this to help me really quickly and easily get to the sounds that I need during a service, so I'm not thinking too much, not looking at my board too much, and I can just get right back to playing once I engage the sound that I need. So starting here with dot tape, this is just my dotted eighth. Tape delay 1, this is going to be the most gentle, the same way that I was describing with the cloud. This is going to be the least intense, and as I scroll up through these LVX presets, it'll just keep going up and up. And then if I hit down, it'll take us right back down. So very convenient if I need to just kind of scroll up or down. Usually this is kind of my home base, the cloud presets on the MercuryX, and then the tape presets on the LVX. That's where I spend a lot of my time. I can scroll all the way up to some of my other kind of crazy presets, you know, Dream, Dual, Glitch. I can access them this way, but I found that especially when I need like a chorus sound or maybe more of a core modulation effect really quickly on the fly, and I just want to use it for a part and then go straight back to my standard tape delay, it's kind of a pain trying to scroll all the way there. So I made this favorites tab here on the top right. If we click that, that's actually going to take us to a page full of kind of favorite presets for my LVX. And I'll edit this depending on what I need for a service. So for example, we did praise relatively recently at church, so I definitely wanted to have my rotary setting. I can hit rotary and it takes me right there and it lights up, which is really helpful for me to know what preset I'm using at the moment. But what's really cool about this is when I disengage any of these favorite effects, it actually takes me right back to my dotted eighth 2, which is kind of my standard, that's my go-to, kind of the dotted eighth 2, and then the cloud 2. Those are going to be kind of home base for me that I tend to use most. So it's really, really handy to be able to just turn on an effect like rotary, takes me immediately there and recalls that sound, and then it can take me back to my dotted eighth when I need it. Another pretty handy thing here too is that let's say you want to go from one effect to another really quickly. Let's say we want to go from chorus maybe to rotary in a moment's notice. You can actually do that. If we go chorus and then click on rotary, it's going to take me there, and it's also going to disengage the color, which is really handy so you know what effect you're on all the time. Up here in the top left, I can also change between subdivisions really easily, which is great. So I'm actually already in dotted eighth, so this is going to tell me, okay, I'm in dotted eighth. Once I hit that, now I'm going to be in eighth. So I can easily just toggle between those two. I actually found I don't really use this that often. If I actually go back, I tend to stay on dotted eighth or eighth for the entire song. Seems to be the way that it goes for the most part for me. So usually it's easy enough just to scroll up to my eighth settings if I need that, or just scroll back down to dotted if I need that instead. So that's really handy for the LVX, but that's not all for the favorite switch. You can actually click and hold this, and this is going to take me to a totally different page of favorites now for the MercuryX. So let's say, for example, maybe I want to go to a spring reverb really quickly at a moment's notice. I can engage that, and then in the same way, it's going to take me back. Once I disengage it, it'll take me back to cloud 2, which again is kind of my home base reverb that I use the most. And these buttons all work the same. So if I want to do wash, I can engage that and really jump between any of these that I want. it'll disengage the previous one, it'll jump to the next, and then once I'm ready to kind of get back to home base, I could just turn it off, hit back, and then I'm right back at my home page. Here on the bottom right, we have a tap tempo. So if for whatever reason, maybe you're changing BPMs on the fly or you're doing a spontaneous song, you can just tap in your tempo right here. And again, that tempo is going to be sent to the LVX and the Brig. You can also hold down this tap tempo button to take you to a bit of a more dedicated BPM screen. Let's say maybe you added a song last minute and you do know what the BPM is going to be. Let's go ahead and just say maybe it's, I don't know, 85 BPM. We know it's going to be that. We can go ahead and hit exit and save. Hopefully this camera will pick that up, but you can see in the bottom right now it's sending 85 BPM. Now, the last piece of this Morningstar workflow that's been really helpful has been more of a recent addition for me, and it's actually utilizing this rock stock aux switcher. And I'm basically just using this to change banks. So like we pointed out earlier, it says here right in the middle, this key of E, love of God, this is the song that we're doing. Let's say we finish that song and we're moving into the next song in our set list. I've already pre-programmed the next song. So if I hit the switch up, we move into the next song in our set list, which you can see here is I've Witnessed It in the key of B. You can probably see here too in the bottom right, the BPM changed. So now it's actually automatically sending the BPM for I've Witnessed It, which is 86 BPM. Let's go ahead and just move into the next song, which is Jesus, We Love You. Now that's sending at 58 BPM. So basically what I've done is I've copied and pasted all of these kind of core buttons, MercuryX, LVX, the favorites, all of those will be the same all the time. But what changes from bank to bank is the key, the song title, and the BPM, which is going to automatically fire when you change banks. So out of the Brig, we go stereo into the Meris LVX. And I don't even know where to begin with this. This does so much. It covers so much ground. I've spent really the last 6 months or so really diving in and learning these pedals, the LVX and the MercuryX, and just really dialing them in. And I've absolutely fallen in love. They've replaced my Strymons. I think they sound better personally, and they're just more fun. There's so much more packed into these pedals. It's just like a playground. You can really do anything you want with them. So I'm primarily using the LVX to cover all of my delay needs. I've got a pretty standard tape delay, a dotted eighth and an eighth that you've been hearing through most of this video so far. But I'm also using this to cover most of my modulation effects as well. I actually just filmed a full deep dive video going into all my presets for the LVX and the MercuryX, so I'll have that video linked somewhere up here. You can also check the description too if you want to check out those presets for yourself. So I'll just go through a handful of these presets. I may add a little bit of reverb too, just to really get the full picture of how I might use this in context. So here's how this sounds. So out of the LVX, we go into the Meris MercuryX, which is covering all of my reverb needs. But just like the LVX, it can do so much more than just reverb. I do have this mostly set for reverb sounds and just like really ethereal kind of experimental ambient stuff as well. Like I mentioned, most of my like core modulation sounds are built into the LVX presets, but I've been blown away just by the fidelity and how lush these reverb sounds are. It's really been a lot of fun to dive into. So throughout this video, you've heard a lot of these cloud presets. I tried to kind of get something reminiscent of the Big Sky cloud, but something a little bit different as well. I like these a lot. It kind of does that scattery thing that the cloud algorithm does on the Big Sky. And there's a little bit of a bloom too, where it kind of blooms in after you're playing, so it doesn't muddy things up too much. So those are kind of my go-to. I do have a handful of others as well. I have another set of Prism reverbs that sound like maybe the space is a little bit closer to you, as well as some Cathedra presets too, which are a lot of fun. But there's all kinds of other crazy sounds that I've dialed in here as well that are a lot of fun. So I'll also just kind of take a tour, taking you through some of these presets too. So out of the MercuryX, I go out into my amps. In this case, I'm using two ToneX pedals. On the left side, I'm using a Tone Factor JMI, and on the right, a Tone Factor ProSonic. And both of them are the version 2 captures, which are kind of new. I'm definitely still dialing things in, but it's been fun to try something new. I've been using the AC30 Benson Chimera captures as just kind of my go-to amp settings for a really long time now. So it's been refreshing, just kind of jumping into something new here. So these are my go-tos at the moment. If I need something that's a little bit more focused, maybe a little bit more present, I really like the Tone Shepherd DR80 and Chimera captures as well. Highly recommend those. I kind of find myself switching between the two depending on what the set calls for. And out of the two ToneX, I go out into the Pinstripe Pedals Daiso XO. It is a fantastic line isolator. Highly recommend it if you're looking for something to convert your signal into XLR and send a super clean signal to front of house. And like I mentioned before, I'll have links to all of my presets as well as all the gear that I'm using down in the description below. So feel free to check any of that out if you're interested. Also feel free to hit me with any questions you might have. I love getting to connect with you guys. Thanks for hanging. I'll see you in the next one.